Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm going to teach you how to put your hair properly underneath a wig cap. So first you're going to want to make sure that your hair is all brushed out, especially if it's curly or wavy, because it gets really difficult to separate the hair into even pieces when there's all the tangles in the end. And that just gets frustrating. So what you want to do is to find where your middle part is, and you want to make sure that you get 4 what we call pin curls in the front, because those are going to really anchor the front of your wig so that you can't see your real hairline. So what I like to do is to divide it up into 4 pieces, about 1 inch by 1 inch or 2 inches, like that. And then just what you want to do is take your 3 fingers, roll your hair around your fingers, or you can do 2 if you want them to be a little bit tighter. Actually, I think I'm going to do that. Once you have a roll, you slide it off your fingers and put it right against your scalp. So once it's against your scalp like that, you want to make sure that it's above where your hairline is, but right about where the ear flap is going to come on the wig. And then just take 2 bobby pins. I like the Meta Grip bobby pins that you can buy at Sally Beauty. And you're just going to crisscross them. So one right over the other, as such. And it doesn't really matter what color you use, because they're going to go under the wig cap eventually. Anyway, they do sometimes stick out of your wig though, so if you're wearing like a blonde wig, it's better to have blonde bobby pins sticking out than black ones. But I've never really had a big problem with it. So the ones in the front, I have bangs, so the ones that are in the front of my head are going to be a little bit smaller than if you are somebody who has no bangs. Just because there's less hair at the end. But you're going to do the same thing, make sure it's pretty close to the front of your hairline, and then just take your bobby pin again and crisscross. And the reason that you crisscross them is because there's the ridges in the top of the bobby pin, and that helps them to lock in so that they don't come out when you put your wig cap on, because that can sometimes happen, and that's bad. So we're just going to do the exact same thing. And I apologize, it's going to be very tedious to watch probably, but it's necessary. And you want to make sure that if you have any flyaways, and I'll spray it later in a minute, but especially if you're somebody who has a lot of short, fine hairs around the edges of your hairline, in the back especially, I like to use gel or mousse and really just work that into your roots and then comb it back with a fine tooth comb before I do my wig pin curls or any of that, so that way they're underneath the wig cap and they can't fly away out from underneath the wig. Alright, so those are the 4 most important pin curls out of your entire head. The placement of the rest of them just needs to be even, because you want the wig to lay flat on your head. But it's not as important that they're tiny or that they're placed perfectly, because as long as they're pretty much the same size as each other, they're going to lay evenly with the rest of the wig. So it looks more natural laying on your head, which is why you do this instead of a lot of people French braid underneath, or I know someone who kind of just piles her hair inside her wig cap, and that doesn't really turn out evenly either. You just want to make sure that you're creating an even surface for the wig to sit on top of. And pin curls is how they do it professionally in theater and in film and things like that, because it creates the most realistic effect. You just want to make sure that they're spaced evenly. Sometimes if my pin curls are really tall, I kind of spread them out a little bit once I've put them on my head, just because I have really long hair, so sometimes they're a little bit two-dimensional, and you want to get them as flat as possible. And it doesn't matter if your bobby pins stick out a little bit. Once the wig cap goes on, it's not going to matter too much. Sometimes the ends fall off, like you just saw that happen. So you just pin that on. They don't need to be super neat, they just need to be flat. So I like to do 2 right behind in the front. Once it gets to the back, which is like where your hair is going to start getting thicker, I like to start using 3 fingers, like, because again, you don't want it to get too tall. If you start running out of room and need to overlap them with each other a little bit, that's okay too. Just as long as they're not one on top of the other too much. It takes a little practice to get them quickly like this. It might take you a little longer than it takes me at first, but you get used to it and eventually don't really have to even look in the mirror that much. Though I like to check in the mirror for the top ones just because I like to make sure that those are really even. Because if they're not even and really flat in the front, then that's going to make the top of your wig or in the front of your wig pop up, and you don't want that. I also like to try and get one right behind my ear. I just find that that's a good place to anchor your wig into. Once we get the wig on, I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so we're getting to the way back here. I also like to try and make sure that I have a pin curl right at the nape of my neck, one here and one here. I think that I found that that's like the best way to get a secure fit once the wig is on you, especially if your wig tends to fit snugly, or if you're someone who has a lot of hair and so your head is going to be a lot bigger with your hair underneath it. If you have really, really long hair or really, really thick hair, then it's good to have something to really anchor into at the bottom. You can see the ones that I've already done are kind of puffing up a little bit, but again, once the wig cap is on top of those, that'll kind of flatten them out. Alright. Do 3 more. The ones at the bottom are usually pretty small, because my hair gets really fine at the bottom. Alright, so then I just divide it in 2. You want to make sure it's a little bit further up than where the actual hairline is, because if it's not, then it's just going to poke out and look weird. Like that. And if your hair is really thick, you may need to do more smaller pin curls. It really just depends on what works for you, because if, again, you don't want them to be tall, and so if your hair is really thick and you're doing ones that are this size and they're just getting too tall, you may want to downsize a little bit. So, let me come back over here. Once you have all of your pin curls on, like so, you're going to want to take your wig cap. You can get the stocking style caps like this or the mesh ones. Both are fine. I prefer this kind because I find that it helps to compress your hair a little bit better. I know some people that use both at the same time. You can use 2 if you really feel like you need that extra compression, but I just use 1. So you just want to make sure that it catches on the 2 back ones a little bit and just stretch it right over the front. Now, I like to make sure that everything gets kind of tucked in. If you want to spray it at this time, now's a good time to kind of spray to get your flyaways, but I don't have a lot of those, so I usually don't. So you want to just inch your wig cap back so that it's kind of caught on the front of your front pin curls and the back ones. So once it's in that spot, you're going to want to take your open hairpins, like these. I like to use the Marietta Pro Basics that you can get. They come in this big box from Sally Beauty. They're really sturdy, so I like to use those. Because they're not, you know, like this kind that you get from like the drugstore, from Goody or whatever, and they're really flimsy and you can bend them and they're just wire, but these are really sturdy. So what you want to do is back pin your wig cap onto your scalp, because your wig is going to be pinned onto the wig cap, not onto your head. And so that's what the pin curls are really for, is to give the wig cap something to anchor onto, which in turn gives the wig something to anchor onto. So that's why it's really important to have multiple layers of secure pinning, because otherwise if you have insecure pin curls, then you're going to have an insecure wig. So what you're just going to do is to take your bobby pin, or your hairpin. This is the hairpin. This is a bobby pin. Difference. You're going to take your hairpin, you're going to put it slightly into the front of your pin curl, and then scoop it back and push so it goes into the pin curl, and that's going to secure your wig cap. And that's called back pinning, and it's a really useful thing to know. So again, you're going to do it on both sides. I like to make sure I have at least 6 points of secure contact here. So I like to do one for each of the pin curls in the front. Make sure you don't catch onto the bobby pins that are on there, because that gets kind of painful. Looks good. And then the 2 in the back. Alright, now what a lot of people don't tell you is that once you have your wig cap on, that isn't enough to make your hair completely compressed. So what you want to do is very carefully, and sometimes you're going to need to kind of unhook the bobby pins as you pull, but pull the top of your wig cap up without pulling out any of your pin curls. You're going to take your 2 fingers here, fold it over, and so that compresses the rest of your hair underneath. So you have a good fold in there, and then you're just going to take another couple of bobby pins or hairpins, and you're going to back pin into the wig cap to keep that down, and that keeps the hair compressed. So now you have your wig cap on, your hair is completely flat, and you're going to be able to put your wig on now. So I have my Anna wig here. She needs a little restyling, so don't mind her. She's a little frizzy today. So it's easier if you have somebody with you, because if you have someone to help you with your wig, what a good thing to do is to put your fingers like this and then grab onto the front of the wig as they pull it over your head from front to back. But if you're just by yourself, first of all, feel the need to make sure that you know how to hook these, because a lot of people hook these onto each other, and you don't want to do that. That's bad. So if you need it to be tighter than what the wig is on the inside, then you can start overlapping them with each other, but I just like to put it to the tightest setting that is available, and that's usually a good size for me. Just because I like to make sure, I like my wigs to be really snug. So you just make sure that it's, sometimes I like to hook it onto the front of my head a little bit further up than it normally would be until I get the back part over. And then I can kind of shimmy it back to where it needs to be. And it's good to make sure that there are no parts of the wig that are caught on bobby pins, because that can make it seem like the wig is like not fitting you right or whatever. You just want to make sure that there are no like bubbles in the cap. So you're gonna, your flaps are right here, and you're just gonna shimmy those down as much as you can until the bangs are at a place that you like them. I like my bangs to lay a little shorter, so sometimes I actually pull the wig past where my hairline is, because the bangs will hide that, and I think that that gives it a little bit more of a natural look. And then I can pull it down a little further in the back, which I like. So, alright, so once you have that the way you want it, then you're going to take more bobby pins, and what you're going to do is to back pin the bobby pins into the wig cap. So you want to part the wig so you can see where the lace is, and you're going to push it into a pin curl, turn it around, and pin it again. Push it all the way in, like that. So that way your wig is going to be firmly attached to your wig cap. We're going to do the same one on both sides here. So you want to pull down your ear flap to where you want it. Push this into where the lace is. There it is. And then turn it around and push it in, and then cover that with the hair. And then you can do that again in the back. Depending on the wig, sometimes they're really snug in the back already, and so you don't really need to. Depends on what you're going to be doing in it. But again, here's what it looks like going into the back. And usually I just do 4, and that seems to be enough to hold it on. If you're going to be doing like crazy gymnastics or something in it, or if this is for a theatrical purpose, I highly recommend doing more. But if it's just for cosplay or things like that, this is definitely enough. So sometimes with wigs in general, the ear flaps aren't going to come quite to where your hairline is. So what you want to do is just pull the hair in the front down. You can arrange the bangs around it a little bit, but then sometimes what I like to do is just to pin it a little bit underneath to make sure that that doesn't show. So usually I'll pin it like that, and then cover it up with the rest of the hair, and you can't even see the bobby pin. So there you have it. That is how you put a wig on. Thank you.